Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5. We'll read the translations for 17 through 22, and then we'll come back and read the purport for text 20. So we'll take turns reading the translations. Shukadeva Goswami said, the great sage Maitreya Muni, after honoring Vidura very greatly, began to speak at Vidura's request for the greatest welfare of all people.
Sri Maitreya said, O Vidura, all glory unto you. You have inquired for me of the greatest of all goodness, and thus you have shown your mercy both to the world and to me, because your mind is always absorbed in the thoughts of transcendence.
It is not at all wonderful that you have so accepted the Lord without deviation of thought. You were born from the semen of Vyasadeva.
I know that you are now Vidura due to the cursing of Mandavya Muni, and that formerly you were King Yamaraj, the great controller of living entities, after their death. You were begotten by the son of Satyavati, Vyasadeva, in the kept wife of his brother.
Your good self is one of the eternal associates of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those who sake the Lord while going back to his abode. Left instructions with me.
I shall therefore describe to you the pastimes by which the personality of Godhead extends his transcendental potency, the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic world as they occur one after another.
Mandavya Shapa Bhagavan. Mandavya Shapa Bhagavan. Raja Samya Manoyama. Raja Samya Manoyama. Ratu Shetre Vitushyayam. Ratu Chetre Bhujishayam. Jata Satyavati Sutat. Jata Satyavati Sutat. Mandavya Shapa Bhagavan. Raja Samya Manoyama. Ratu Chetre Vijushayam. Jata Satyavati Sutat. Mandavya Shapa Bhagavan. Raja Samya Manoyama. Ratu Shetre Bhujishatyam. Jata Satyavati Sutat. Mandavya Sapa Bhagavan. Raja Samya Manoyama. Ratu Shetre Vijusyatam. Jata Satyavati Sita. Mandavya Shapa Bhagavan. Raja Samya Manoyama. Ratu Shetre Vijusayam. Jata Satyavati Sutta. So read the word for word together. Mandavya, the great Rishi Mandavya Muni, Shapat by his curse, Bhagavan, the greatly powerful, Raja, one who is born, Samyamanaha, controller of death, Yama, known as Yamaraj, Ratu, of the brother, Chetre, in the wife, Bhujishyayam, kept, Jataha, born, Satyavati, the mother of both Vitrachavirya and Vyasadeva. Suta, by the son, Vyasadeva. I know that you are now Vidura due to the cursing of Mandavya Muni, and that formerly you were King Yamaraj, the great controller of living entities after their death. You were begotten by the son of Satyavati, Vyasadeva, and the kept wife of his brother. So I'd like to read the purport. Any volunteers?
Mandavya Muni was a great sage. Compared with Bhagavatam chapter Canto 1, 13:1. And Vidura was formerly the controller Yamaraj, who takes charge of the living entities after death. Birth, maintenance, and death are three conditional states of the living entities who are within the material world. As the appointed controller after death, Yamaraj once tried Mandavya Muni for his childhood profligacy and ordered him to be pierced with a lance. Mandavya, being angry at Yamaraj for awarding him undue punishment, cursed him to become Shudra, member of the less intelligent labor class. Thus, Yamaraj took birth in the womb of the kept wife of Vishitravirya, from the semen of Vishishavira's brother, Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is the son of Satyavati by the great sage of Arasara. And Vishitravira is the son of the same by the great king Shantanu, the father of Vishmadev. This mysterious history of Vidura was known to Maitreya Muni because he happened to be a contemporary friend of Vyasudev's. In spite of Vidura's birth from the womb of a kept wife, because he had otherwise high parentage and great connection, he inherited the highest talent of becoming a great devotee of the Lord. To take birth in such a great family is understood to be an advantage for attaining devotional life. Vidura was given this chance due to his previous greatness.
Come again, tremendous Gnadana Slaka Chaksun, Minatas, Meshri Gurve. So Vidura is a very interesting personality. He tried for many years to persuade Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana to give up their nefarious ways and not fight with the Pandavas. But they didn't listen to him, much to their demise in the end. So I have a question for you. In this purport is described, and in the translation it's mentioning Maitreya's explaining, I know you're now Vidura because of this curse from Mandavya Muni, and previously you were Yamaraj, and there's a whole story about that in earlier cantos of the Bhagavatam, how Yamaraj was punishing this person and he protested. And actually, when the person was very young, they had killed an ant with a blade of grass. They were torturing this little ant. And so Yamaraj said, no, you misbehaved, so you need to be punished. And so this Brahmana was very powerful and he cursed Yamaraj. He said, well, that's unjust punishment, so you have to take birth as a Sudra. So here we are, he's taking birth as Vidura. So my question is, Yamaraj is we'll talk about a little bit about his potency. He's one of the Mahajans. So he's a very powerful person. In fact, the Mahajans, I'm just going to read this quote, I guess, to set up this question a little bit. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's Lord Chaitanya speaking. He says, dry arguments are inconclusive. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The Vedas are very vast. The Upanishads, Puranas, Itihad, there's so many different scriptures. And if you read them, you get very confused. And there's contradictory information. You should do this. No, you should not do that. You should do this. So if you're not very, very learned, it can be a little confusing and difficult to understand. Then he goes on to say, the solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. Consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajans advocate. So basically, this is the parampara, right? We have to accept this knowledge from someone who has it. You can learn a lot about medicine by reading the books. There's encyclopedias, there's videos, there's so much you can get, but nobody's going to trust you to operate on their brain unless you've actually unless the doctor studied under someone very expert. And they can say, yes, I was taught by so-and-so, I know this, so-and-so. Well, then you'll say, okay, then you probably know what you're doing. And you say, well, I read all the books, I understand what to do. Then I don't know that you would trust him to do surgery upon your heart or your brain. And that's not just for medicine or spirituality, it's for anything, music, art, anything. If somebody very accomplished, they learn from somebody more accomplished, and that's how they learn. So these Mahajans have this knowledge. And I'll list them. There's 12 of them. You've probably heard this before. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Narada, Vaspati Manu, Kapila, the Kumaras, Prahlad, Bhishma, Janaka, Bali, Shukadeva Goswami, and Yamaraj. So these are 12 Mahajans, great personalities. And then it goes on that there's another paragraph saying basically the same thing. According to the Mahabharata, there's no point in arguing. You just get confused. Everyone presents something according to their own point of view. So the Lord Chaitanya's teachings are like nectar. Just take this instruction for someone who has it. And so these are the Mahajans. So Yamaraj is one of them. So he has this knowledge. He's very powerful. He knows reality. He knows this absolute truth. So how is it possible? So here's my question to you. We have a microphone we can pass around. I'll put you on the spot a little bit. So here's Yamaraj, one of the Mahajans, very knowledgeable. He understands the Vedas. He understands religiosity. In fact, his role, his service is when you give up this body and you leave, based on your activities, you either go up or you stay here or you go down. If you perform pious activities and good things, then you can go to heavenly planets. If you just kind of staying neutral, maybe you take birth again on earth. But if you've done bad things and haven't rectified those things, you're going to go to some place to be punished. And Yamaraj is that place you go. He's the person who would decide, based on these activities, this is where you go. In fact, there's a very interesting story. When you've heard the pastime of Jagai and Madai, when Madai broke the pot over, when Nityananda, he brought blood from Nityananda for breaking this pot on his head. Lord Chaitanya came to this place. He heard, he came immediately. He was going to kill them both. In fact, he was going to kill the whole race of which they were part of. He was pretty upset. You hurt my devotee. And Lord Nityananda said, no, you can't. You're merciful. You have to deliver the most fallen, and they're the most fallen. You have to deliver them. So Lord Chaitanya said to Jagai and Madai, he said, okay, if you surrender to Nityananda and you do whatever he tells you to do, then I'll forgive you. And so they surrendered to Lord Nityananda. And at that moment, Yamaraj has a lot of scribes working for him. They're recording everyone's activities. Okay, they did this, they need to be punished. They did that. Okay, they did something good. That helps to offset it. And so they had books and volumes from Madai and Jagai of all the things they had done. These were not nice people. If you think of the worst thing that could happen to somebody, they did it. They were very evil. They were actually Brahmins originally, but they became bad association drunkards and a lot of sinful activity. So they had volumes and volumes written in these books of all the punishments they have to get. And all of a sudden, all the pages went blank. And Yamaraj said, okay, wait a minute. There's no amount of pious activity a living entity can perform to make these pages blank. They've done so many sinful things. There's not enough. There's nothing you can do to offset that. So he had to investigate. So he came to the scene to see what's going on. How is it possible that all these sins have been eradicated? And he appeared on the scene and he saw Jagai, he saw Madai, and he saw Nityananda, and he didn't see Lord Chaitanya because it was evening time. It was getting a little bit dark. And he looked around and he was completely bewildered. And then he saw two eyes where Lord Chaitanya was standing. And then he understood what had happened. So as soon as they surrendered to Nityananda, all the sinful reactions that were due to come to Jagai and Madai were absorbed in the Lord Chaitanya, and his body became black. And Yamaraj was just astounded that he had forgiven Jagai and Madai, so they didn't have to suffer over all the sinful reactions. And Lord Yamaraj, and I don't know, Yamaraj said or Lord Chaitanya said it. I think maybe it was Lord Chaitanya. I'll have to check. But basically, Yamaraj said, well, these sinful reactions have to go somewhere. They can't stay with Lord Nityananda. He's not going to suffer. He's the Supreme Lord. They can't just completely disappear. They have to be deposited somewhere. So they will be deposited upon those persons who commit aparad against Vaishnavas. That's where these reactions will go. So that's one of the reasons it's very dangerous to commit Vaishnava aparad, is because you'll get the reactions that were supposed to go to Jagai and Madai, you'll get them. So that's just a little glimpse into Yamaraj. This is his role. His service is to punish wrongdoers. And he's very just, he's very fair. In fact, he's very powerful. You can understand the depth of his devotion because his association, we talk a lot, devotees will talk all the time about the importance of Vaishnava association, the importance of associating with sadhus, with saintly people. Because whether we like it or not, we are going to be affected by the people we associate with. That's just what happens. You associate with materialistic people, you become materialistic. You associate with saintly people, you become saintly. It affects you. And so Lord Yamaraj's service is to punish evildoers. So almost all the time, he's associating with very bad people. He doesn't have good association. I don't know how long his lifespan is. It's quite long, I'm sure. But basically, it's not a very nice job to be in that position where you're always having to punish people. Very rarely do you have good association where you can just sit and hear about Krishna and be enlivened. And yet, in spite of all that bad association, he maintains Krishna consciousness. His love for Krishna never wavers. And so he's very powerful. He's a very powerful devotee. So the question is, how is it possible that Lord Yamaraj, with all these saintly, powerful qualities, was doing his service? He didn't do anything wrong. He gave the just punishment to somebody. And yet, how is it possible that he can be cursed and made to suffer? You could say suffer, although we can debate how much he suffered as Vidura. But he was forced to, basically was punished. He was given this curse. He was forced to take birth as a Sudra. So how is that possible? He's Yamaraj, he's a Mahajan. He didn't do anything wrong, and now he's forced to be punished for something. How does that work? It sort of undermines our whole faith in the whole program, right? We want to believe that if we do these things, we'll be protected from such things. And here's Yamaraj doing all these correct things, and he's being punished. So, any takers on this question? I have a hand in the back, raised, so then we'll come. Do you have a microphone back there?
Well, when devotees do devotional service, they're not asking for anything in return. They're trying to serve the Lord. And whatever comes, whatever the Lord deals them as a part of his will, they just willingly accept. I think I heard somewhere though that Yamaraj, because of his not being able to have association, in his hearts of hearts, he really desired to see Krishna, and he really desired to see Krishna's pastimes and participate in it. So he was given a chance, actually, in this way. So I think it was some kind of divine arrangement.
It's a beautiful answer. Anyone else? So I saw a hand here, and then there.
Like a similar answer. You kind of indicated that he doesn't have an opportunity to associate. And at the same time, when Krishna comes, he brings his paraphernalia and his great associates with him. Second reason could be that sometimes Krishna teaches the lesson through his devotees. And third is sometimes he puts them in a situation to glorify them.
Those are good answers. I think I should come here and listen to class by you all, because
I showed you to use
yes,
It was on the same line as Prabhu, but pastime's sake for pastime's sake, for fun. That's why.
yeah. So this is great. So all three answers were exactly correct. And Prabhupada goes on to talk in the purport of the next verse. And it's interesting. I read the purport a couple times to text 21, and Prabhupada starts talking about Yamaraj, and then immediately, just as he's talking about the same person, he's talking about Vidura. So he clearly, in his mind, they're one and the same person. It's not like Yamaraj this and Vidura that. It's like, well, Yamaraj, da 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 da, and then therefore Krishna arranged for Vidura this. And it's all Krishna's Leela. That, yes, Yamaraj, because of his association, hankered for this, and Krishna arranged all these things. And the famous example of this, and the lesson for us is, this is why it's very beneficial for us to understand two things. Krishna is our best friend. I mean, a lot of things we can understand, but if we fully understand Krishna is the Supreme Lord, Ishvara Parama Krishna, there's nobody greater than him, and he's my best friend, then if we fully embrace that, then it becomes very easy just to accept whatever's happening, whatever it may look like. Krishna's my friend, and he's in control. So this thing that may not look so pleasant, I'm just going to trust that Krishna's my friend, and he's in control. And when we do that, it's a little scary at first. Our mind rages against us and says, no, you idiot, you're just completely, you need to use your intelligence. Yes, we should use our intelligence. We should use our intelligence to understand Krishna's my friend and Krishna's in control. And when we do that, we'll see. It may not happen immediately, but we surrender that process and we'll see, oh, okay, now I see why he did this. And others will look at us and laugh and say, why did you let this happen? And we'll just chuckle because, oh, you have no idea the blessings I got out of letting that happen. Krishna will dance in our heart and he'll dance in our lives. So Prabhupada talks about in the purport to text 21, the next verse, about how Krishna, he brings his associates. Krishna never comes alone. He brings us, hey, I'm going to go over here. Come, everybody comes. So all the demigods, they come. And they appear as Vidura, as Arjuna, so many personalities. The famous example of this is the Bhagavatam itself that we're studying was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to King Parikshit. Well, why was it spoken? Because King Parikshit was cursed to die in 7 days. And he said, what do I need to, well, I have 7 days to live. What should I know? What do I need to think about? How do I prepare for this? Well, why was he cursed to die in 7 days? Because he took a dead snake and draped it over the shoulders around the head of as a garland to a Muni, a sage, a rishi who was meditating in the woods. And his son came and saw this and cursed him. So why would Yudhishthira do such a thing? First of all, the son, it was a child, is cursed. And when the father heard about it, he was very upset. So why did you issue such a curse? And of course, King Parikshit was powerful. He could have counteracted this curse. But he didn't. He said, no, this is Krishna's arrangement. And it's described in the purports of these verses in the first canto, I forget which chapter. Prabhupada describes how this was all Krishna's arrangement. So Yudhishthira King Parikshit overcame with thirst and hunger. And so he got a little bit irritated, and went into the hut looking for some water, and this sage was just meditating and didn't break his meditation. So Prabhupada describes King Parikshit is very powerful. For him to be overcome by hunger or thirst, that doesn't happen. He's beyond that. And so the whole thing was Krishna's arrangement so that this could happen, so this could happen, so this could happen, so Shukadeva Goswami could speak the Bhagavatam. In fact, there's an interesting event that happened many years before. Uddhava, I forget all the details behind it, but Uddhava was the queens in Dwarka were trying to understand why Krishna, although they treat him very nicely in Dwarka, he's never really satisfied. He's always really deep inside, they can understand. He's thinking of Vrindavan, he's thinking of the Vrajvasis. He's just meditating on the gopis, no matter what we do. So they're trying to understand this. And so Uddhava says, well, you have to hear the Bhagavatam and then you'll understand. And Parikshit was there and he was really excited. Oh, good, I get to hear this Bhagavatam. And Uddhava turned to Parikshit, who was a little younger, very vigorous king, and he said, actually, you can't hear this right now. We need you to go out and keep Kali at bay keep the world away from us so we can have this Bhagavatam discussion uninterrupted. So we need you as a Kshatriya to protect this space and keep all the bad elements away. And Parikshit was devastated. He said, I was looking forward to hearing the Bhagavatam, and telling me I can't hear it. I have to go and, just fight bad people. So Vidura said, don't worry. In the future, you will become famous and you'll become connected famously to the Bhagavatam. It will be spoken to you and your name will be broadcast. And whenever your name is spoken, it'll be in connection with the Bhagavatam. Don't worry, you'll hear the Bhagavatam, guaranteed. And so then Parikshit was pacified and off he went. So this curse of the young boy for King Parikshit to die in 7 days and Bhagavatam, the whole thing was an arrangement. I mean, Parikshit, when you look at activities, a lot of people died in the battle at Kurukshetra. Like 6 or 7 people survived out of the millions of people that died. And one of them was Parikshit, right? The weapon came, Krishna entered the womb to protect Parikshit. So he was very dear to Krishna, very, very dear to Krishna. So the whole thing was arranged for his benefit. So that's a good answer. You all gave very beautiful explanations of this point. So that's it. Yeah, and it was interesting to me in the first verses that we read, 17 or 18, I think it was. It mentioned, O Vidura, all glory to you. You have inquired for me of the greatest of all goodness. Right? It just mentioned because Vidura is asking, tell me about Krishna, tell me about his pastimes. And then Maitreya goes on to say, and thus you have shown your mercy to the world, to both the world and to me, because your mind is always absorbed in thoughts of transcendence. So this is where where Vidura's consciousness is. He's just always thinking of the Lord. And then it goes on to talk about it's not surprising that you're so elevated because you were born of Vyasadeva, etc. And then the verses we just read, giving his high birth and like that. So yeah, Vidura is a very, very saintly, special personality. And whenever we hear about Krishna's devotees or Krishna, and in fact, when you read the Bhagavatam, I haven't counted it up. Someday we should add up all the verses. I know, like in the 9th canto, there's a description of Nrsingadev, and the portions about Nrsingadev are, relatively small. In the whole canto, the portions about Prahlad are like, I did a count once, so I forget how many chapters, 10 or 20, I forget the number. But there's numerous chapters about Prahlad and a few verses about Nrsingadev. And so this pattern you see in the Bhagavatam, yes, Krishna's talked about, Krishna's glorified. In fact, when I first started, what attracted me to become a devotee, when I first started reading the Bhagavatam, what attracted me was the way Krishna deals with his devotees. I thought, wow, this is really amazing. I want to be, what is this devotee? What do you have to do to be a devotee? I want to have God treat me that way. And so you see in the Bhagavatam, we love the Bhagavatam because it glorifies Krishna. But when you actually read the Bhagavatam, a lot of the energy, a lot of the verses are describing the devotees and their relationship with Krishna. Because while we get pleasure from Krishna, he gets pleasure from his devotees. And so he wouldn't be happy with the book just written about him. He said, no, if you're going to glorify me, you have to glorify my devotees, because my devotees are who make me who I am. And so that subject matter is always very auspicious for us. So this is kind of what Maitreya is relaying to Vidura. He's very happy that he's asking these questions. So is there I'll stop here and see if there's any questions or comments. Yes, Prabhu.
I just wanted to ask if Yamaraja is that's an office, or like a specific person, like only.
That's a great question. I don't know the answer. I think it's a post, like Indra, Lord Brahma. These are all posts, and there'll be sometimes if there's no one qualified to fill the post of Lord Brahma, Krishna will fill it. will fill in. And I believe that's the same with the Yamaraj, that it's a post. I'll have to check and get back to you to confirm. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. He's like a judge or a dispenser of punishment. But the personality who was fulfilling that role then took birth as Vidura. So Vidura is a person. If that helps. Anything else? Yes, Nardamani.
So I've never heard before that the Bhagavatam was being spoken and Parikshit wanted to be there. And then they're like, no, Parikshit, you have to like go do your duty and protect us that we can speak. And I was just thinking about this concept, how things operate on not like the time, not our like controlled timeline, but Krishna's time. And yeah, I was just wondering I forgot like who was speaking that Parikshit was protecting. And also, yeah, maybe do you have any examples of like how you wanted something on a certain time and Krishna had other ideas?
Yeah, who was speaking was Uddhava. He was speaking to the queens of Dwarka. And that was, I believe it was in Vrindavan. I think it was Kusuma Sarova. In terms of, have I ever experienced, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like you wanted something at a certain time, but Krishna fulfilled it.
Well, I remember, I don't know if, I guess Krishna fulfilled it. I do remember one time, I was early, I was a very new devotee. I was living with my Guru Maharaj, Mukunda Goswami, and I kind of took care of his office and faxes and computers and stuff. And so Lokanath Swami was traveling. Lokanath Maharaj was doing the Prikrama in India. He would just travel around on a bullock cart, Harinam. And he came to America and he was going down the coast of California. And I think this was due to the Robin jury. There were different things going on in the movement at the time. So they're trying to get, devotees engaged to broadcast, basically educate people about what is Krishna consciousness and who are the devotees. So he was coming down California and we were in San Diego and he got to San Diego. And so it was arranged that there was going to be a big, huge Harinam downtown in San Diego. And Lokanath Swami was there. He was actually recording an album. And so anyway, he stopped this thing and he came out. And I was so excited. And I was getting ready to go and Mara was getting ready to go. And then just as he's walking out there, he said, okay, I need you to stay here in the office in case the phone rings. Because what Mukunda Raj did was communication. So he worked a lot. I remember I used to drive him around and we would drop off envelopes and kits to the different reporters and newspapers with photographs and things, Hidyamasmi is coming, and basically educating people, in this case, it's reporters and press, so that they can write about it, and then people would know, oh, the devotees are here, they're having this festival. And so that was a lot of his service. My first service was just dictating, he would dictate in a tape, and I would type up names and addresses for labels. Nancy Jones, 123 Main Street. And that was the first service I did. And I did that for a couple of hours. And I remember just feeling so ecstatic. And I thought, this is insane. I'm typing Nancy Jones, 123 Main Street on a label, and I'm feeling like complete ecstasy. I thought, I wonder if is this what's meant by devotional service? Like, is this what Prabhupada's talking about? Like, I took it back and I said, do you have any more? So that was the service. So he said, so in case anybody calls, or a reporter or somebody from the press calls the office, somebody needs to be here to answer the phone and tell them where to go. So we'll be at this address. So anyone who calls, tell them where to go. And I was just like devastated because I wanted to be there. It's like Harinam. It's like a party. It's like I have to sit in the office. It's like, that was really painful. But it didn't take too long after that. I've had a number of occasions like that with him and with others, that the initial few moments of surrender are can be painful sometimes. But once you actually surrender and just say, okay, fine, this is this is Krishna's arrangement, I'm just surrendering to, then it gets really, really sweet. So then I was okay. Eventually, not long after that, I was okay. I don't know if that answers your question. But yeah, Krishna does sometimes give us things to do that appear very, very difficult. But then when we surrender to it and we see that this is pleasing to Krishna, then it becomes very, very sweet. No?
The question was very similar to Narada Muni's. We know Yamaraj was cursed, and it happens in our spiritual lives occasionally, not being cursed, but taking a certain downturn, difficulty, which, as we all know, down the road turns out to be a blessing. My question is, at the moment when it happens, how do we have faith and trust in Krishna that whatever is happening that may be unpleasant is good for us long term? How do we, at the moment, deal with it?
So that's a great question. Yesterday there was a class in Alachua about talking to Krishna all the time, having an intimate relationship with and just talking with him. And then someone brought up a thing. Well, it's kind of like you don't call a lion to deal with the mouse. It's a big beast. It's a small problem. Maybe it's overkill. And do we need to go to Krishna for everything? These are small little things. And it occurred to me, I didn't think of it at the time, but then as I was going home, I thought about it and say, well, if we have some issue with somebody, we might go to an authority, a local constable, or we're not going to think to go to the president or the king. We're going to go to somebody that's more appropriate depending on what the issue is. But if you're the king or the president or the king, pick your image of whatever the powerful controller is. If you're his wife or you're his child, the child has an issue, the child's not going to go to the constable or local policeman. He's going to say, Dad, I've got this issue. And what do I do? Can you help me? And so if we see God as Vishnu, 4 arms, or very powerful person far away, yes, we're going to be hesitant to go to him with our petty little insignificant problems. But if we understand, what were the 2 things we want to use our intelligence for? I mentioned earlier. Krishna's our best friend, and Krishna's in control. So if we understand Krishna's my best friend, then do we feel any hesitation to go to our best friend to say, hey, what do you think about this? I'm having this issue. I need some help. And so when something difficult happens, and the reality is, he is our best friend. And so when something happens that, okay, this turn of events, it looks or feels like maybe Krishna's asking me to surrender, or maybe he's forcing me. Something just happens. It's not even a choice. It just is. So how do we deal with it, and how we understand later, as I understand the question, later we'll look back and we'll realize, oh, that was actually a good thing. But at the moment it happens, we don't see that. We don't feel that. There's no way to know in the future it's going to be a good thing. We're feeling the pain of I'm forced to surrender to this thing, or this thing's happening. Should I surrender to it? Should I fight it? All these things are going through our head. So my answer, at least what I do that has been pretty effective, is just that's when we have to go very deep and try to get past the false ego and the mind and just use our intelligence to say, well, Krishna's my best friend. And Krishna's in control. Ishvara Parama Krishna. It's one of the first verses I've memorized. So Krishna is either personally making this happen, or indirectly he's allowing it to happen. He could be arranging things in a different way, but he's not. So I'm not seeing or feeling that he's my best friend, but I know he is. So let me just accept that he knows what he's doing, and just hold on to that. The tighter we can hold on to that. But sometimes it's easy, sometimes it takes a little work. It can be tricky because as we advance in spiritual life, it gets more and more subtle. Then our false ego gets in there and our mind, and we start thinking, yes, but this, yes, but that. And so if it really is something that's like we're wrestling with, then we can go to other devotees, authorities, spiritual master, other devotees, and say, hey, is this, this seems like something I should surrender to, or how do I deal with this? And we could take, shelter of them. But as deeply as possible, we need to be convinced that Krishna is in control and he's my best friend. And as we take shelter of that, he will guide us. I mean, I have a habit now. I was thinking about it in this class yesterday. If somebody told me, you can't just call out to Krishna for every little thing, it's like I wouldn't get through the day. I wouldn't survive, both spiritually and professionally, my service to my spiritual master, in my service, my work in the corporate world, I've always been in situations where my position and what I'm asked to do is beyond my abilities. It's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't have the skills to do that. I'm an imposter. I don't know why they're paying me to do this, because I'm not really capable of doing it. So every day, several times a day, it's like, Krishna, what do I do? They're asking for this. I got to do something. And he'll give intelligence. Well, just say this, just do this. And then at the end of the day, everyone's happy. And I still don't know what happened, because Krishna provides these things. So we have to just know that as deeply as we can, Krishna's my friend. Krishna's in control. And then he'll give us intelligence with how to deal with it. Sometimes we need to push back and try to change the situation. Sometimes we just need to surrender to it and understand this is what he wants. But that would be my answer. I mean, that's the only answer I know, is because, and I found in doing that, Krishna really is our best friend. And he wants us to be happy. He doesn't want us to suffer. Suffering is not required. Sometimes we suffer because we don't want to learn. So things will be a little hard because we're being stubborn. But if we surrender, the sooner we surrender, the less we suffer. Hope that helps. I think we're at our... Do it? Okay. Was there any other question? I don't know that I have anything else to say, but does anyone else have a question or comment? Yes.
It's more like a sharing or a comment. I find the class very relevant. Thank you so much for everything that you spoke. I find it very interesting how actually Krishna deals with us. It's always counterintuitive. Like if we want something, he will give us exactly the opposite to kind of encourage us to develop it. So I guess like from what I've heard so far, it's really about us making the independent decision to actually surrender to Krishna in the process. So if he just gave us exactly what we asked for, then there's no space for that exercise of actually going a little to make an effort to actually trust Krishna instead of every other thing. Like, because we all have the tendency to focus on every other thing but God. But I feel like maybe that's why in Bhagavatam and in our lives, we often experience and see these examples of just very confusing scenarios. Like it's just completely opposite to what you would expect, something that could happen. But we can't understand the Lord's mind, but at least we are actually given an opportunity to kind of realize something and to embrace that grace of like to develop that character and to always walk in God's grace and know that he is actually there. I'm just, yeah, like I'm grateful that this is being discussed, and we're trying, discussing this together. Because it's really not easy when the thing really hits you. Like you're just
It's
like,
not.
what?
It's not easy. It's not easy. But you bring up a great point that Krishna, I prayed most of my spiritual life. I prayed, Krishna, just like arrange my life and just make me do the right thing. Just like he's not going to take away the free will. We have to choose it. It has to be our own volition. So we have to surrender to it. He won't force us to surrender. He'll give us opportunities to surrender. And what helps, or what has helped me the last few years, is I finally start to wake up and realize it's not all about me, it's about Krishna, is that what will give Krishna pleasure? Then if I insert that into my thinking, well, if this is pleasing to Krishna, the goal of life is not to find our own equilibrium and our own pleasure. And some of my favorite verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahatma Prabhu talked about this in Rasastani, is Radharani's mood of if that thing that gives Krishna pleasure is difficult for me, let that difficulty be my greatest pleasure. And it's not that Krishna wants us to suffer. It's not Krishna wants us to be in difficulty. Sometimes Krishna arranges things to be difficult to force us to go deeper, that help us remove those superficial things that aren't important. Ultimately, so that we can be happier. And this comes out over and over. Queen Kunti's prayers, Radharani's mood, that what is pleasing to Krishna, let me understand what is pleasing. How can I please him? Get the focus off of me, get the focus on Krishna. And it is counterintuitive, because our whole identity, the whole disease, the reason we're here is because it's I, me, mine. It's all about me. And that's what brought us here. So it's very hard to do. But as we learn to say, look, it's not about me, it's about Krishna. Because ultimately, if we think the best thing I can do for myself is to serve Krishna. Because at the heart of my identity and my existence is Krishna. He brought me into existence. I'm part of him. If he's happy, I'm going to be happy because I'm part of him. It's just, it's going to happen. So as I focus on his happiness, all my needs are taken care of. And that's probably one of the single most important things in Krishna consciousness, is to understand, if I surrender to Krishna and I can just be Krishna conscious, all my needs will be met. I'll be happy, I'll have whatever I need. Because our mind tells us otherwise. It's a constant, okay, look, you just go away because I'm not listening to you. I'm going to accept what the saintly people have said. So that's a nice point. Thank you for raising that. It is counterintuitive sometimes. I have a question. I don't know if I have time still. Go ahead.
Krishna. I was thinking, like they say, like, giving is receiving type of deal. Wondering if maybe part of the reason why it's so important to serve and to give is because if we're just focusing on what we're getting, then it's likely that we'll just turn a blind eye to suffering. Because we could walk by somebody on the street who's like in pain, and we might not even care, because the only thing we care about is just our own feelings of feeling good. Whereas that being like the I, me, mine, like only focusing on me. But like whenever we actually take pleasure or joy in helping somebody else who needs help, like I'm wondering if that line of thought is like a big deal for this whole thing.
Yeah, it's at the root. You could say it's sort of at the core, the root of our philosophy. You've heard the term das anudas, right? Servant of a servant of a servant. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who say they're my devotees, they're not my devotees. Those who are the devotees of my devotees, they're my devotees. And Prabhupada says, the more, das under that, servant of a servant of a servant. The more you insert servant of a servant of a servant of, the more you insert servants in there, and the longer that list becomes, the more elevated you are spiritually. Because of exactly what you're saying, it's not about me. My existence is for the pleasure of Krishna. So let me help other people become Krishna conscious. Let me relieve their suffering. Whether it's giving them a book or giving them some prasadam or whatever it is, let me remove their suffering. And then Krishna will take care of ours. We won't suffer. He'll make sure we're taken care of. So yeah, that's very central. It's a great point. And it is important. And it's important for the false ego. Because if we don't do that, our false ego just runs us ragged and we get completely bewildered. So thank you. Great questions. I think I'll stop there. Kantara Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Abhisade Govinde Namaha